In early February 2025, trade frictions between the United States and Canada intensified after President Donald Trump announced major tariffs, citing concerns about illegal immigration and the surge of fentanyl entering the U.S. Trump imposed a 25% tariff on all Canadian imports with a lower 10% rate specifically on Canadian energy products. These tariffs were scheduled to take effect on February 4, 2025. In retaliation, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau unveiled countermeasures by imposing a 25% duty on $30 billion worth of U.S. goods, also beginning on February 4th. Trudeau further indicated plans to extend these tariffs to an additional $125 billion of U.S. products after a 21-day period of public consultation. The affected items include American beer, wine, bourbon, fruits, fruit juices, clothing, sports equipment, and household appliances. After discussions between Trump and Trudeau, both parties agreed to postpone the tariff implementations for 30 days. In exchange, Canada promised to bolster its border security by appointing a fentanyl czar and by collaborating with the U.S. to form a joint strike force aimed at curbing drug trafficking. Although some of these measures had been previously announced, they received mixed reactions within Canada. Despite the temporary delay, concerns remain about the potential economic fallout from the proposed tariffs. Economists caution that such measures could lead to higher consumer prices, disrupt supply chains, and strain the long-established trade relationship between the U.S. and Canada. Negotiations continue as both nations work toward a more permanent resolution before the tariffs are reinstated. Canada agreement with Japan. Canada, particularly the province of Alberta, is actively pursuing strategies to diversify its oil and liquefied natural gas exports beyond the traditional U.S. market. This initiative is driven by potential U.S. tariff threats and the desire to tap into the growing energy demands of Japan and other Far East nations. This report delves into Canada's diversification plans, the strategic importance of Japan, and the associated challenges and opportunities. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is convening an economic summit with business leaders, policy experts, and labor unions to discuss reducing Canada's economic dependence on the U.S. This initiative includes promoting internal trade and reconsidering previously canceled energy projects to facilitate international energy exports. Public sentiment has shifted significantly, with 90% of Canadians now supporting reduced economic reliance on the U.S., a notable increase from prior to the tariff threats. Suncor Energy CEO Rich Kruger has stated that the company is well prepared to handle potential U.S. tariffs. Suncor retains 60 to 65% of its production within Canada, utilizing the Trans Mountain Pipeline for shipping via the British Columbia coast, providing a natural hedge compared to other Canadian oil producers who transport their crude to the U.S. Heavy reliance on the U.S. market. Canada's heavy reliance on the United States for its oil and gas exports has long been a cornerstone of its energy trade strategy. In 2022, approximately 97% of Canada's crude oil exports were directed to the U.S., with Alberta contributing the majority of this supply. Similarly, a significant portion of Canada's natural gas exports, valued at $22.4 billion, were for the U.S. market. This over-reliance poses substantial economic risks, especially amid escalating trade tensions. The U.S. has recently signaled potential tariff impositions on Canadian energy products, prompting concerns about the future stability of this trade relationship. Emerging trade challenges. Recent developments have highlighted the urgency for Canada to diversify its energy export markets beyond the United States. U.S. tariff threats. The U.S. has signaled potential tariff impositions on Canadian energy products, prompting concerns about the future stability of this trade relationship. Geopolitical considerations. Diversifying export destinations enhances Canada's energy security and reduces vulnerability to policy shifts in any single country. Asia's growing energy demand. The Asia-Pacific region, particularly countries like Japan, is experiencing a surge in energy consumption. Japan's energy landscape. In 2023, Japan imported approximately 66 million tons of LNG, making it the world's second-largest LNG importer after China. While there has been a recent decline in domestic LNG demand due to increased nuclear and renewable energy usage, future power demand may rise due to data center growth if renewable and alternative energy strategies like hydrogen and ammonia don't expand significantly. Japan's LNG demand is expected to increase. Strategic opportunity: Canada's proximity to Asia's west coast positions it advantageously to meet this growing demand, especially as Japan seeks to diversify its energy sources. Japan, as a strategic market, Alberta's Minister of Environment and Protected Areas Rebecca Schultz has been proactive in fostering energy ties with Japan during a recent visit to Tokyo. She engaged with key stakeholders JERA as Japan's largest LNG buyer. JERA plays a pivotal role in the country's energy procurement. Minister Schultz toured JERA's Futsu thermal power station and LNG intake facility, discussing Alberta's capacity to supply natural gas to meet Japan's energy needs. Japan Gas Association, represented by executives from Tokyo Gas, the association focuses on the development and distribution of gas resources in Japan. Minister Schultz had a productive meeting with the association, facilitated by the delegation from Energy for a Secure Future, to understand Japan's energy requirements and discuss Alberta's potential contributions. JOGMEC, Japan Oil, Gas and Metal National Corporation, is instrumental in ensuring stable supplies of oil, gas, and minerals to Japan. Discussions with JOGMEC centered on potential partnerships and investment opportunities in Alberta's energy sector. Canada's competitive advantages. Canada offers several advantages as a liquefied natural gas supplier to Japan. Shorter shipping routes. The distance from Canada's west coast to Japan is significantly shorter than from the U.S. Gulf Coast, reducing transportation time and cost. For instance, the voyage from Vancouver to Tokyo covers approximately 4,329 nautical miles, typically taking about 11 days. In contrast, shipments from the U.S. Gulf Coast to Asia often require transit through the Panama Canal, adding to both distance and transit fees. Geopolitical stability. Canada's political environment is stable, presenting fewer risks compared to other LNG exporting regions. This stability ensures a reliable supply chain for importing nations like Japan. Additionally, Canada's commitment to environmental standards means that Canadian LNG is approximately 40% less carbon-intensive compared to LNG from the U.S. Gulf Coast, aligning with global efforts to reduce emissions. Existing partnerships. Projects like LNG Canada exemplify the collaborative efforts between the two nations. LNG Canada, located in Kitimat, British Columbia, is nearing completion and aims to commence exports by mid-2025. The project's Phase 1 is expected to produce 14 million tons per annum of LNG, with plans to double this capacity in Phase 2. Notably, Japanese company Mitsubishi holds a 15% stake in this project, highlighting the strong energy partnership between Canada and Japan. To support its strategy of diversifying LNG exports, Canada is heavily investing in new infrastructure, particularly in British Columbia. The province is set to become a major hub for LNG production, with multiple large-scale projects under development. These projects, once operational, will significantly enhance Canada's capacity to supply Asian markets, including Japan and other Far East nations. LNG Canada, located in Kitimat, British Columbia, is the most significant energy investment in Canadian history, with a total cost estimated at $40 billion. This project is a joint venture involving major energy companies including Shell, Petronas, PetroChina, Mitsubishi Corporation, and Kogas. Once operational, the facility will process and export LNG derived from natural gas in the Montney Formation near Dawson Creek, BC. The project is designed to be developed in 2 phases, with Phase 1 expected to produce 14 million tons per annum of LNG. A potential Phase 2 expansion could further increase its capacity. The strategic location in Kitimat was chosen due to its industrial zoning, year-round ice-free deepwater port, and existing infrastructure, which facilitates LNG shipping to Asian markets. Construction of the first phase is currently over 95% complete, and the facility is on track to ship its first LNG cargo by mid-2025. This milestone will mark a major breakthrough in Canada's ambition to become a significant LNG exporter. Woodfibre LNG, a smaller-scale export facility, is being developed in Squamish, British Columbia, at the site of a former pulp mill. This project is committed to using electric drive technology to minimize greenhouse gas emissions, aligning with Canada's efforts to develop cleaner energy solutions. It has a projected capacity of 2.1 million tons per annum and is expected to commence operations by 2027. What sets Woodfibre LNG apart is its collaboration with Indigenous communities. The Squamish Nation has been actively involved in the project's development, ensuring that environmental and cultural considerations are integrated into the facility's operations. This cooperative approach not only strengthens Indigenous partnerships, but also enhances the project's social license to operate. Let's take a quick pause. If you've enjoyed the video so far, could we ask a small favor? Hitting the like button helps us reach a broader audience, and sharing your thoughts or feedback in the comments makes an even bigger impact. Thank you for watching. Now let's dive back in. Cedar LNG is a unique Indigenous-led project located in Kitimat, British Columbia. The Haisla Nation, in partnership with the private sector, is spearheading this initiative to establish a 3 million tons per annum LNG export facility. The project aims to leverage existing energy infrastructure while providing long-term economic benefits to the Indigenous community. Cedar LNG is expected to be one of the lowest-emission LNG facilities in North America. The project incorporates innovative design elements, including electrification, to reduce its environmental footprint. Its location in Kitimat ensures proximity to the LNG Canada project, providing potential synergies in transportation and infrastructure use. If all approvals proceed on schedule, Cedar LNG is targeting a late 2028 startup. KSI Lisem's LNG is another ambitious LNG project in British Columbia, set to be developed in collaboration with the Nisga'a Nation, located near Gales. The project will utilize floating LNG technology to process and export natural gas. It is projected to have a production capacity of approximately 12 million tons per annum, making it one of the largest LNG developments in Canada. A key feature of KSI Lisem's LNG is its focus on environmental sustainability. The project is designed to be among the lowest carbon-emitting LNG facilities in the world, thanks to energy-efficient processing techniques and its strategic location near hydroelectric power sources. The project developers aim to have the facility operational between 2027 and 2030, contributing significantly to Canada's overall LNG export capacity. These LNG projects collectively represent a transformative shift in Canada's energy export strategy. By 2029, Canada's LNG production capacity could reach approximately 31 million tons per annum, with additional potential for expansion. The strategic positioning of these projects on the West Coast ensures a competitive edge, offering shorter shipping times and lower transportation costs compared to U.S. Gulf Coast LNG exporters. Furthermore, the inclusion of Indigenous partnerships, low-emission technologies, and integration with existing infrastructure demonstrates Canada's commitment to responsible resource development. As global LNG demand grows, particularly in Asia, these projects will play a crucial role in positioning Canada as a reliable and sustainable energy supplier. Japan-Canada's trade as of 2023. Japan remains Canada's fourth-largest trading partner, with bilateral merchandise trade reaching approximately 36.5 billion Canadian dollars. Canada's exports to Japan amounted to 15.8 billion Canadian dollars, while imports from Japan were valued at 20.7 billion Canadian dollars. This trade is governed by agreements such as the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, or CPTPP, which has significantly reduced trade barriers and enhanced market access between the two nations. Despite Japan importing more from Canada in terms of natural resources and agricultural products, Canada's demand for Japanese manufactured goods, particularly vehicles and machinery, keeps the trade relationship balanced. Both nations continue to explore new opportunities, especially in the energy sector, where Japan's increasing reliance on liquefied natural gas aligns with Canada's growing capacity to export it. Canadian exports to Japan, key sectors and products. Canada plays a crucial role in supplying Japan with essential raw materials, energy products, and agricultural commodities. Among the most significant exports are mineral fuels and oils, including liquefied petroleum gas, coal, and liquefied natural gas. Japan, as a major consumer of Canadian propane and butane, relies on these fuels for both residential heating and industrial applications. Metallurgical coal, a key input in steel production, is another critical component of Canada's export portfolio to Japan. The agricultural sector also holds a prominent position in trade between the two countries. Canada is the world's largest exporter of canola, and Japan is one of its most important buyers. Canola seed and oil are in high demand in Japan's food and biofuel industries. In addition to canola, Canada supplies wheat, soybeans, pork, and beef, which are essential for Japan's food security. With strict quality control standards, Canadian agricultural products have built a strong reputation in the Japanese market. Beyond raw materials and food products, Canadian minerals such as copper, nickel, and iron ores are indispensable for Japan's high-tech manufacturing sector, including electronics and automotive production. Additionally, pharmaceutical and forest products contribute significantly to Canada's total exports, reinforcing its diverse trade offerings to Japan. Japanese exports to Canada, key sectors and products. While Canada is a major supplier of raw materials, Japan excels in exporting high-value manufactured goods. One of the largest categories of Japanese exports to Canada is automobiles and automotive parts, as Japanese automakers maintain a strong presence in the Canadian market. Companies like Toyota, Honda, and Nissan export vehicles directly to Canada while also producing cars within the country. In addition to automobiles, industrial machinery and electronic equipment form a substantial portion of Japanese exports. Canada imports a wide range of precision machinery used in manufacturing, construction, and scientific research. High-tech medical devices and scientific instruments from Japan are also in high demand, reflecting Canada's reliance on advanced Japanese technology in the healthcare and research sectors. Consumer electronics, including semiconductors and optical devices, further strengthen Japan's export footprint in Canada. The high quality and reliability of Japanese technology ensure continued demand for these products across multiple industries. Canada and Japan began establishing formal ties in the early 20th century. Diplomatic relations were officially recognized by both countries as they sought to expand their international trade networks in the decades that followed. Trade in goods such as timber, fish, and manufactured products helped lay the groundwork for a mutual economic interest. Japanese immigration to Canada also started during this period, contributing to Canada's cultural diversity, though early migrants often faced significant challenges related to integration and discrimination. One important historical marker was the establishment of formal diplomatic relations. While the exact dates of early diplomatic recognition vary by source, both countries moved toward closer political ties by the mid-1900s, setting the stage for deeper engagement after World War II. World War II dramatically altered Canada-Japan relations. As part of the Allied forces, Canada found itself in direct conflict with Japan, and the war left deep scars on the bilateral relationship. A notable and painful chapter was the internment of Japanese Canadians during the war, an event that resulted in the forced relocation, detention, and confiscation of property for thousands of individuals based on national security concerns. This legacy has continued to influence efforts toward reconciliation in the decades since. Following the war, both nations worked to rebuild trust and establish a new basis for cooperation. In Canada, successive governments have acknowledged and apologized for the wartime injustices inflicted upon Japanese Canadians, with compensation programs instituted from the late 1980s onward. Meanwhile, Japan embarked on a path of economic reconstruction and democratization, setting the stage for a renewed partnership that would emphasize mutual growth and economic interdependence, re-establishment and strengthening of ties. The decades after World War II saw Canada and Japan re-establish and strengthen their economic ties. Japanese technological and industrial advancements in the post-war period created opportunities for Canadian exports, particularly in natural resources and energy trade growth. For instance, according to Global Affairs Canada, bilateral trade between the two countries has steadily grown. In 2021, total merchandise trade was valued at approximately 19.1 billion Canadian dollars, with Canadian exports to Japan reaching about 8.1 billion Canadian dollars and imports from Japan totaling roughly 11 billion Canadian dollars. Direct investment, Japanese direct investment in Canada has also been notable. In 2021, Japanese companies invested an estimated 1.4 billion Canadian dollars in various sectors such as automotive, technology, and energy. Meanwhile, Canadian direct investment in Japan was in the vicinity of 0.8 billion Canadian dollars, reflecting growing confidence on both sides. Cultural and educational ties. Cultural exchange has paralleled economic growth. There are currently estimated to be over 50,000 Canadians of Japanese descent, and numerous academic, artistic, and tourism initiatives have enriched bilateral understanding. For example, in 2019, more than 300,000 Canadians visited Japan, driven by cultural festivals, academic exchanges, and business ties. Contemporary relationship. Recent years have seen continued growth in bilateral trade, with trade volumes increasing by an average of 3 to 5% per year. In 2022, the bilateral trade volume was estimated to be around 20 billion Canadian dollars. Japanese firms have a significant presence in Canada's automotive, energy, and technology sectors, while Canada remains a key supplier of natural resources and agricultural products to Japan. Both countries are investing in collaborative projects in areas such as clean energy, biotechnology, and information technology. These joint initiatives not only drive economic growth, but also contribute to addressing global challenges like climate change and cybersecurity. Political and diplomatic cooperation. On the global stage, Canada and Japan frequently collaborate within multilateral organizations such as the United Nations, the G7, and the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, or APEC. Their shared commitment to democracy, human rights, and sustainable development further strengthens their partnership. High-level visits and regular bilateral dialogues have helped both nations address emerging challenges from supply chain resilience to regional security issues.